This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. It is great to be back. Andrew Paterson with you. Big shout out to Remo and Connor Rabchak, who did a great job holding it down, while myself and Hammer and our crew enjoyed not quite a full week thanks to travel delays down in Costa Rica, but a great time down south, taking part in the Costa Rica Poker Open with our friends at Coolbet. Huge thanks to Pat, Jake, and the guys for making this happen. Congratulations to our winner, Greg. And yeah, it certainly was a great time, but I am fired up to be back. Looking forward to seeing some WSTers with us tonight at the Jets-Habs game downtown. Don't forget, that's a 6 p.m. game tonight. I know we'll have early entry. I have a feeling it'll be tough for a lot of people, probably myself included, to get there that early. But it should be fun. And I'll tell you what, this Habs team, love them or hate them, one of the most exciting young teams in the league and the youngest team in the league. And to be honest, as a Jet fan that's seen where this season has gone and what has happened with the drafting and the prospects, I have a feeling there'll be a lot of envious Jet fans watching the Montreal Canadiens tonight. Now, listen, they did go through some really, really lean and rough times. You know, they picked first overall, and to get the first overall pick, you have to really suck. They definitely did take care of that as well. But as we go through the the portion of the season after the break, there'll be a lot of talk about that draft lottery, I think. Although, credit to the Jets. I mean, listen, I know that I think there's a lot of people that are looking at these results and looking more at the bottom of the standings than the playoffs. Certainly that's not the players. You have to give them credit for continuing to, to play hard and, come out of a road trip that certainly on paper was one of the most intimidating of the year, with 5 of 8 points. Could have been 6 if, Mark Scheifele scores on that breakaway in OT. But the hill is steep. And, despite the fact they're 7-3-3, not really any closer than they were at the start of this right now. Heading into tonight's action in the West, the Jets are now 9 points out of a playoff spot. And as we'll talk about before, that's very ominous because in NHL history, since they moved to a 16-team playoff format, there have been only, I believe it's 45 years, there's been only 3 occurrences of a team being 8 points out at Feb 1 and made the playoffs. And as you can see, shout out Dauber Hockey for this one. The most recent one was the Hamburglar Senators 10 years ago. And that was, they basically won every game. I think they went 17-1-1 over a 19-game stretch. And tell you what, if the Jets have that coming out of the break, yeah, they can make the playoffs. Unfortunately, we know what the math is, and it is not kind to Winnipeg. That being said, should be a real fun night in the building tonight. Habs, I have a feeling, if you remember early on, of course, the Jets' first ever game was against Montreal. They'll be playing the Habs next year in the outdoor game here in Winnipeg, which I know many of us, most Jet fans are in the city, I think, really looking forward to. The Habs always have a large contingent, but I remember the Habs and Leafs contingents, for, home games being about the same. During this period, while they've been sort of doormats up until last year, we're really taking that next step, it had really fallen off. I'm quite interested to see whether there's far more Hab fans in the building tonight pumping their chests out with where the team is. And you know what? Good on them. There's a lot of teams that have attempted rebuilds. This one in Montreal seems to be done exquisitely, and they're not only just a playoff team right now, but a young, exciting team in what really seems like a pretty wide open East. So we'll talk to Shaun Starr. He's going to join us from Montreal. Always love checking out with Shaun. He'll give us the latest on the Habs. Coming up a little later on, Brandon Rewicki will join us as well. We'll get his thoughts on the Jets. And, of course, the upcoming Olympic Games. The Olympics are underway, folks. We got mixed doubles curling going on, I believe, right now as we speak. And, of course, the men's hockey tournament, women's hockey gets going very soon. Cannot wait for that. We'll be all over that over the course of the next couple of weeks. Listen, going to bring in Michael Remis. We'll hear from Scott Arnaiel. Jets had the early morning skate today with a 6 p.m. start. Looks like it's going to be Hellebuck and Montebo. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arnaiel, a little bit of Josh Morrissey and Cole Perfetti, who has been playing quite well. We'll hopefully have Connor jump on as well at some point as well. He was down at the morning skate today with a little bit more setting up today's games. And, of course, we'll get to the lines for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Do want to thank everyone that jumped on and joined us for tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you up in Section 316. We do have a couple more games of the month. Tampa and Philly, I believe, later on this season. But tonight, we'll be up there for this Habs game and look forward to seeing you there. Do want to thank all of our sponsors, of course, our partners at CoolBet. Big WST winners on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Super Bowl special. We'll get into our picks for the game and a whole assortment of prop bets. And we'll talk some props actually later on. Thomas Tipple is going to jump on with us from Fantasy Points. We'll see what he's cooking up for the big game. Also, want to thank our friends at Chud's Power Sports, Princess Auto, of course, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Manitoba Battery, the St. B Mega Millions Lottery, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center, and Rollies Transfer, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everyone in chat. Great to see you all again. And great to talk to you again, Michael. Great stuff with Connor holding it down while we were having a little bit of fun down south of the border. How are you?
Yeah, welcome back. Great to see you here, Huss. Feeling good. I'm starting to get Olympic fever. Starts today. The opening ceremonies are Friday, and men's hockey starting next week. So I'm feeling good, ready for this one. Excited to be in the building tonight with our Winnipeg Sports Talk group. 6 p.m. start against Montreal Canadiens. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Habs fans there as well.
Shout out to Tico Napoli right out of the gate with the super chat. Habs swept us and went to finals and seemingly rebuilt. And what exactly other than last year's shocking President's Trophy? What have Jets done with the Vezina tender? Oh, Chevy got fired again in the chat by Tico Napoli. Go Jets. Yeah, listen, this Habs team and this game tonight is really interesting, Reem. Winnipeg had such high expectations going into the season, and we all know, unfortunately, where the team sits right now. I wasn't sure whether Montreal was going to be able to be as good as they have been this year. I mean, they're incredibly young. They're fast, and I thought maybe they were a little bit of ahead of schedule next year. But as we'll talk about with Shaun, they didn't take a step back at all. And despite having some pretty spotty goaltending, this team is winning games more often than not and have put themselves in a very enviable position heading into tonight and into the Olympic break. Very comfortable in a playoff spot in the East.
Yeah, amazing how bad their goaltending has been. Fired the goaltending coach within the last couple weeks. But they keep scoring. They've got a lot of young talent, very exciting, up and coming. It helps when you get the first overall pick, Juraj Slafkovsky. Not exactly a generational player like Macklin Celebrini, but he's been pretty solid and gives them that size element that maybe they don't have around the lineup. Lane Hudson really emerged in his second year after a tremendous rookie season. Cole Caulfield, he's a sniper. But you're getting that rookie production from young players like Ivan Demidov. Started off lower down lineup on the second power play, but has worked his way up to the top power play. Oliver Kapanen, we'll get more into that with Shaun. He's second line center. I mean, not exactly a household name, but having a great rookie season. And I think on defense, this offseason trade for Noah Dobson really solidified that top pair with Lane Hudson, gave you some solid veteran D in him and Mike Matheson as well. Alexandra Carrier on the third pair. This defense is a pretty solid group. That Dobson trade, I think, really helped them out in signing him to the extension in the summer.
Yeah, we'll ask Shaun about Dobson and his role coming up when he joins us on the program. And we'll get to the clean lines in just a minute. Let me ask you this. As the Jets kind of went through this road trip, obviously they started off with the win in New Jersey, lost to a really, really good Tampa team. But I have to admit, and this is probably not the time when everyone was really hoping, or many fans weren't hoping it would happen. But there certainly has been no quit in this team. I mean, a gutsy comeback win against the Florida Panthers. And by the way, allow me to be the first, if it hasn't been done on the show already, to announce that the Winnipeg Jets killed the Panthers. And there will be a new Stanley Cup champion this year. That regulation win on the weekend in Fort Lauderdale, I thought was absolutely devastating to the Panthers' playoff hopes. And then to have Buffalo come in and do the job as well. The Panthers have a game tonight that simply is a 100% must-win game if they want to even be in the conversation for the playoffs. They right now sit at 59 points. They are 9 back of the Boston Bruins. So basically in the similar spot that the Jets are right now. They do have the Bruins tonight in a game that I guess they could get to within 7. But it does feel like we're going to have a new Stanley Cup champion. And I'd be saying that even if they didn't have the most players on any team playing in the Olympic Games, Reem.
Yeah, the injuries have been huge. Missing Alexander Barkov for the season so far. There's reports that he's skating. We'll see if he gets back. I mean, he's the engine for them on that top line. Excellent two-way center. Marchand's been out. They've had injuries on defense as well. Just they're always banged up. It's not going well for them. They played a lot of hockey the last 2 years, compressed schedule. Very, very tough East. So, too bad, I guess, for the Panthers. I don't think anyone is upset if there's a new Stanley Cup champion. Oh, sorry, Kirouac was a big injury too. I mean, there's a lot of big injuries for them.
No, like as I tweeted out from Costa Rica. I mean, if the Jets were gonna, they're going to win games down the stretch. They were going to win one. Helping put a final nail in the coffin of the Panthers was A-OK with me. Just speaking of that for a minute. And we'll have to go back and look, at our NHL preview for on WST Winners on the YouTube channel with the boys over at CoolBet. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, because we had this conversation on this show and on WST Winners with Pat and Jake about the Panthers making the playoffs. And, listen, they had just won back-to-back cups. They played more hockey than anyone, along with Edmonton. You're without Tkachuk for half the season at least. You're without Barkov for the entire year, who is their best and most important player. And I think the number on the Panthers to miss the playoffs was around 4-1. Looks like those are going to cash. And then the entire East right now with Montreal holding down the first wild card as we go into action tonight, albeit tied with Buffalo at 70 points. It is wild, Remo, like the teams that are in right now. And listen, we'll talk in a minute about the Blue Jackets and what Bones has done with Columbus. 9-1 in their last 10, winners of 6 in a row. And the good thing for the Blue Jackets is that they're in the Metropolitan Division. And the Islanders won last night, but they're only 4 points up on Columbus. Columbus has 2 games in hand. And it seems like the third spot in the Metropolitan Division is more realistic than the wild card right now, where Boston sits at 68. But Boston, not a lot of people had them as a playoff team this year. I think Montreal was very iffy. I do believe they were plus money at CoolBet to make the playoffs at the start of the season. And then there's Buffalo. and Detroit, which leaves some of the big teams that everyone just assumed would be in, Toronto, Washington, New Jersey, Florida, on the outside looking in. And, kind of when you break down the numbers, games remaining, the Blue Jackets have the best chance of switching up the apple cart in the East. But for the most part, I think we're going to have a real exciting first round with a whole bunch of teams that either weren't expected to be there or haven't been there in forever.
Yeah, and that's kind of the theme of the season for me, Huss, is a bit of a changing of the guard. You've seen young superstars, Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard, among the league leaders in points, but you're seeing teams who've been perennial playoff teams the last couple of years not be in. You look at the Winnipeg Jets, LA Kings, currently out of a playoff spot. St. Louis Blues, they're way down. But who's in this year? You got Anaheim, Utah, Seattle's in, San Jose's knocking on the door. And in the East, teams who have been in the last couple of years, Washington and Toronto, well, they're out. And then you have Boston back in, Montreal firmly in, Islanders, Pittsburgh, a big surprise with, their more veteran team. But you think of, young up-and-coming teams, Detroit, finally gets in there after a year, whatever, of the Yzer plan there. And the Buffalo Sabres, who haven't been in the playoffs since, 2009? So it's kind of exciting in that way. You're going to have new teams and a new Stanley Cup champion. Unfortunately, the Jets are on that side where, it's January or now February, and they're basically eliminated from the playoffs. So we'll have to see how their season goes in a different way. But I think for the NHL, this change here, there's some excitement that there could be will be a new Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, and when it's just as far as where the Jets sit right now, they're at 52 points through 55 games. I mean, the best they can be going into the break, if they win tonight, would be 2 games under 500. And if you jump into the overall league standings as it pertains to what the draft lottery is, I think it's highly likely that we probably won't see much movement outside of this sort of bottom 6. Now, Chicago's 1 point up on the Jets. Jets have a game in hand. But from Winnipeg to New Jersey and Nashville, there's a 6-point gap. And, right now, this would be different if there were 3-point games. And if you really went on a run and you were winning in regulation each night, the ability to catch teams would be far greater. That's not the case right now. So in all likelihood, however this bottom 6 shakes out is probably going to be where the Winnipeg Jets end up. Now, I guess, we could get to the trade deadline. You could have a Nashville or a New Jersey, maybe make some big significant moves for the future and potentially fall off. But we're probably looking, at least as it relates to the Jets, likely in the bottom 6 of the league. Now, can they finish lower than Chicago or Calgary or the Rangers? Probably not. But I think that's sort of where where things are shaking out. And then, you got to hope for a little bit of lottery luck to move up, as they did when they selected Patrick Laine second overall. So that's kind of where things stand right now. But one more game, and then the team can, the Olympians will head to Italy. And the rest of the guys will go probably to some warmer climes and get away from what's been a disappointing season so far. Reem, the other big story right now is the upcoming trade deadline. But there was a thought that for some players we might see a bit of an early deadline, basically before the trade freeze happens, going into the Olympic Games. And that's why there's been a lot of intrigue as to a potential Artemi Panarin deal, as he and his agent sort of size up suitors, talk extension before the Rangers pull a trigger on a deal for their top offensive player.
Yeah, there's been some reports that he's going to get traded before the roster freeze. That's today. I talked to Dennis Bernstein on this show yesterday, as he was saying, that we're probably not going to see moves because teams don't want to, pay a guy to sit around for a month during the break. So, but you're also saying, hey, maybe it would be better to get a guy settled in and ready to go. So we'll have to see, what happens, Huss. But I'm refreshing my X feed, the Everything app, all day, trying to see any morsel of information from any insider. Maybe this is, a conspiracy by Big Trade to get the rumor mill going, so we have something to talk about. And there will be no deal, but I'm refreshing. We're staying tuned if Panarin could be on the way. Seeing the Capitals rumored, Tampa rumored. I don't know if you saw this. Tampa Nikita Kucherov's like 2 points per game in the last 40 games. He's on an incredible heater right now, as they just lost Anthony Cirelli for injury, and we're watching Braden Point. So yes, the trade rumor mill as we get down to the roster freeze.
Well,
deadline.
and you know what? Just speaking of Braden Point, I mean, I've been doing the same thing, just trying to see, hearing anything. And he's not going to play before the Olympic break. Apparently, he's been back and he's been getting into a couple practices. But I do wonder, I mean, can Canada afford to bring a guy that, has been hurt for an extended period of time and had a really, really underwhelming season by his standards before that? It wasn't a surprise, and I know you and Connor talked about it, that Sam Bennett was added to the team for Anthony Cirelli. Certainly can, do a good job playing in a similar role to Cirelli. And listen, the resume speaks for itself. I mean, the 2 Stanley Cup championships, the Conn Smythe Trophy, scoring the tying goal in the Four Nations last year. It was pretty shocking that he wasn't on the team to begin with, so I don't think that caught anybody by surprise. But I am really intrigued now that Bennett is on the team, who I think we all thought would probably be the logical first alternate, or at least the guy that Hockey Canada would pick, even though there's arguments for other guys. If Braden Point can't go and they're going to wait to the last minute, you do wonder if Mark Scheifele might get that call. And to me, it probably is going to come down to Mark Scheifele or Zach Hyman. And Hyman missed a lot of time at the start of the year, but since coming back, he has been lights out. He's been scoring more often than not when the Edmonton Oilers play. And of course, for whatever reason, there's been this long challenge to find guys that fit with Connor McDavid. I'm not sure there's been anyone that's fit better with McDavid. And you could certainly plug Hyman in onto that wing and know exactly what you're going to get from a guy that has done so much with McDavid over the last number of years.
Yeah, you look at points, we'll see what happens with Braden Point. I feel like it would be tough to take him if he hasn't played. I know there's another week until Team Canada plays. So you have another week for recovery, but I think that's asking a lot for a guy who hasn't played the last couple weeks, to just plop him in after coming back from a knee injury. Like, hey, you're playing in, the toughest competition. However, it's not like Canada's group is a bunch of world beaters. First game, no offense to Czechia, who's in there, France. It's not, they're not playing Team USA or anything in these massive games. So maybe they do, maybe they stay loyal to him. But if they were looking for a replacement, Mark Scheifele's 4th among Canadian players in points this year, 67, behind McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini. But I think Connor McDavid's got to be pushing for his guy. You mentioned they did have, struggle at the Four Nations finding line mates for him. That it works. You have that built-in chemistry. You've seen it in the past, bringing pairs together. Even on this team, you have Taves and Makar as a defensive pair. You've seen in the past Chris Kunitz on the team with Crosby. And Hyman, he's a 50-goal scorer. He's a pretty good player. And he's, since coming back from injury, he's been great for Edmonton. So I'm probably leaning Hyman here, but I'd like to see Mark Scheifele get the opportunities. I think he's earned it.
Yeah, the problem for Scheif is that he just isn't as versatile a player as like a Jarvis.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Hyman. I guess Hyman, I think can kill penalties and probably does at times. Certainly Jarvis is a guy. Wyatt Johnson's having an amazing season. In fact, let me throw this out. Why not question of the day for the gang over at not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? If Braden Point cannot play or they decide to not bring him, who should be the ad for Team Canada? Remo, maybe do up a poll. We got to put Scheifele on that list. We got to put Hyman on that list. Let's throw Seth Jarvis on that list and Wyatt Johnson. And people can bet that. Yes, Matthew Hyman is hashtag Team Hyman. Not maybe not surprising. Kev K says Hyman or Jarvis can play anywhere in the lineup. CJK57 says I wouldn't count Florida out this season. CJK, sorry, I just declared them dead and buried. Now, I guess if they win this game tonight, they'll still be 7 points back. But man, I mean, we've just seen how difficult it is to make up ground. And on top of it, for the Panthers, they had the most Olympians. I mean, they're going to come back with all of these guys having just played through the break as opposed to every other team, with far less numbers of their big guys participating. So I think it's over for the Panthers this year. But again, that's why they play the game. So maybe you could be right.
I did the poll, so if Point can't go, who should Canada pick? Hyman, Scheifele, Jarvis. Was it who should they pick or who will they pick? I don't forget what you wanted to do.
No, let's go with who should they pick. I mean,
okay.
I think there's going to be a lot of support for Mark Scheifele. If you can't win the poll here in Winnipeg, it ain't happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of GMs out there too that want to put their vote in, and yeah, Canada's schedule kicks off next Thursday, 9:40 a.m. against Czechia. Friday, the 13th. 2:10 p.m. against Switzerland. Stay tuned for our show notes on that, Huss. And then
we got to figure something out for next Friday because, needless to say, we're not going to be doing live. So we'll probably do something before the show, and then who knows, maybe something after as well. We'll figure out that plan over the course of the next few days.
And then the 15th at 9:40 against France. So, when I talked with Stephen Ellis on this show last week, Daily Faceoff, who's dialed in to like every hockey league on earth, and I was like, who's the team we need to watch out for? And he said Switzerland. They played really well at the World Championship. They've got a lot of players. That's a team. That's the game to watch for Canada in the group stage.
Well, Nino, of course, will be lacing them up for the Swiss, so we'll kind of be pulling them outside of the Canadian games. And Phyllis does bring up, I mean, Connor Bedard is another guy that certainly I think would get consideration. But when I think about where things are at right now, I mean, Scheifele's 9th in league scoring, so he certainly deserves to be in that conversation. And then you look at guys like Wyatt Johnson, who's right up there production-wise, and then Jarvis and Zach Hyman, who maybe have a little bit more versatility to their game, and then the intangible for Hyman with McDavid, which I think is certainly important.
Bedard had that injury, Huss, and they said it didn't affect his play. But, he hasn't really been as on fire since returning. Only 8 points in 11 games. He had 23 and 14 in November. We were talking about, who's going to be on the team, who's not. And, so he's slowly making his way back from an injury. And, maybe they say, hey, our designated young gun spot is taken by Celebrini. Sorry, Connor Bedard, you'll have to wait to 2030.
Yeah, no doubt. And one thing I'll say is this would not even be, I think, a question if Braden Point wasn't on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, John Cooper can see him in practice every day, and Coop will be all over it and have his thumb on the pulse of Point. I mean, if he's on Winnipeg or Pittsburgh or Calgary, having not played this, I don't think there's a chance that he'd be going. But that is why they're holding out. By the way, and I'm sure you guys touched on this on Monday's show, Reem. How about John Cooper's getup in that Stadium Series game? That Stadium Series game, we actually got a chance to catch it in Costa Rica because it was on ESPN, and we were out at a bar, and they actually had it on, and it was the only hockey I saw the entire time that we were away. But that was a next level Stadium Series game, and the buy-in from particularly the Lightning. I mean, like the players showing up in the Bucks creamsicle unis with helmets and shoulder pads and everything, and then Cooper wearing that get up on the edge, and then the game, a goalie fight, a 4-goal comeback. I mean, there's been some really big time Stadium Series games, Heritage Classics, Winter Classics, whatever you want to call them, certainly in the local markets. But this one seemingly stands far and away from everything else about the pomp and circumstance they had in it and then the actual show on the ice.
Yeah, having, the pirate theme was incredible. The outfits, the walk-ups, the fireworks. And yeah, it was an amazing game, as you said, close with a goalie fight. And I think having the game the week between the AFC and NFC Championship and the Super Bowl where there's nothing going, like it's Sunday night. I'm like, well, what am I going to watch? I'm in this routine of watching Sunday Night Football. What the heck? I'm like, well, this game seems like it's a cool idea with a theme, and I'm going to tune into it. And it wasn't, they scored like 30 seconds in. Boston did, and it was, or was it Tampa? There was so many goals in that game. But
Tampa scored
yeah.
like 11 seconds in.
Yeah.
Boston scored 5 in a row. There was a goalie fight. Tampa scored 4 in a row and then ended up winning in the extra frame. We're in the shootout.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted because we do have a trade to announce here, but it's not the trade that you think it's going to be. So that game got record ratings, and I do wonder if they could reconsider the timing of some of their marquee games to coincide during that week. And we just saw the Pro Bowl games, like no one cared about that yesterday. So
the only thing that mattered on the weekend was the Stadium Series game and the Royal Rumble.
And Scotties too was awesome Sunday. But yes.
Oh my God, was that ever? I mean, I know I talked about that on that segment that we did for the show. All right, we have a trade to announce. Elliot Friedman, Nick Bjugstad.
This is the big trade.
Traded from St. Louis to Jersey for a mid-round pick and a prospect. Is Bjugstad an unrestricted free agent?
Let me double check that because
Jersey?
They're out of it. They've gone it hasn't gone well for them lately. So I'm not really sure what the plan is there. Let me just double check.
They're 1 point behind the Panthers at 58 points, full 10 out of the playoffs, and they played one more game.
So yeah, they're done. So trending on Puckpedia, Bjugstad, of course. He's got one more year left, so he's one more year. We saw him here with the Blues. He's a big guy, center. Played lower down in the lineup. I don't know. I'm not sure what New Jersey's up to. I guess they're playing for next year.
Fitzy making one more move. All right, listen, we're gonna dive into the games. The one thing I did want to just mention because I was away the last couple days, I tweeted this out, but condolences to the friends and certainly the family of legendary Winnipeg sportscaster Peter Young, who passed away after a lengthy illness earlier this week. If you're of my vintage, you grew up watching Peter on CKY. My earliest memories of Winnipeg Jets hockey were with Peter Young involved. Obviously, the sports stars. He was the sports director of CKY all those years, and really sad to see him go. I mean, if you've ever talked to Peter, we've had him on the show before as well. I mean, particularly going back to like the Bobby Hull era and the Jets going into the National Hockey League. He was omnipresent on the sports scene at that point, and reading some of the memories of Peter, some stories that being young at the time, not really remembering. It was such a big part of the sports scene here in Winnipeg for so many years, and an absolutely legendary career. So Scooch is going to join us tomorrow. We'll talk a bunch of things with Joe, but certainly get some memories of Peter when he joins us on the program before. So I definitely wanted to throw that out to everybody. All right, listen, just before we get to tonight's game and the lines, folks, big shout out to our friends over at Uptown Alley. We've got a lot of fun going on as we get into the NHL break. If you're looking for a great time with your friends, or you're planning a birthday party or a corporate outing, look no further than Uptown Alley down at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Just an unbelievable facility if you haven't been in there. Tons of 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, and amazing areas to host groups, parties with incredible food and beverage options that will blow you away. Not to mention a state-of-the-art arcade and all sorts of other games where you can win tickets to exchange for prizes to take home afterwards. If you check them out at uptownalley.ca, I'll have all the information on birthday party bookings or group and corporate events where you just pick what the activities are, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and the event staff at Uptown will take care of all of the rest of it. Had a great time there over the holidays and looking forward to get back there soon as well. You can give them a call at 488-0000. And if you're just with a pal or a few friends looking for something to do in a night, don't forget that great bowl and play special after 9 p.m. every day over at Uptown Alley. The team, many of the Jets players will be moving on to warmer climes over the next few days once the Olympic break gets going. But as we're into the new year now and into February, if you and your family have a move planned coming up this spring or summer, make sure to talk to the gang at Rolly's Transfer to make plans to have them take care of business with the white glove treatment that they're famous for. Family owned and operated for over 60 years right here in Manitoba, and the trusted name in moving, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Hit them up at rollies.com. You can request an estimate there. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know the details of when you're planning on moving, and they'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for that white glove treatment that they're famous for. For all your moving needs, lean on Rollies, the experts, now into their 7th decade. Rollies.com is where you'll find all the information for that. I know it is, I just got done holidays, and now we're kind of back to it. Might be time to go see the dentist, actually. It's been a minute since I've been to see Dr. Terry, and for a while, I was a delinquent, and it cost me, and I had to spend a lot more time in that dentist chair. But I will tell you, as far as dentist experiences go, there's none better than St. Vital Dental Center. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. Now have a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road. State-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. Hit them up at stviteldental.ca. Make an appointment. Taking care of clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. For all your dental needs, Dr. Terry, St. Vital Dental Center. Online, stviteldental.ca. Tell them the boys at WST sent you. And of course, a big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. Hopefully we'll be toasting many Canadian men's hockey and women's hockey wins at the upcoming Olympic Games. Next time you're popping by your local Manitoba liquor marts, keep your eyes out for Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll still have to wait a little bit before enjoying those CC and ginger ales at Princess Auto Stadium this year. But in the meantime, get the good stuff, Canada's original Canadian whiskey since 1848. And when you're picking up beers, keep your eyes out for singles, 473 milliliter cans of the amazing limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale. All right, we'll get to the clean line lines in a minute, but let's hear what Coach Scott Arnaiel had to say coming out of today's morning skate. We'll start off with 4 here, Reem, and second matchup of the season, and the first at home between the Jets and the Habs. Here's what Arnaiel had to say on the exciting young Montreal squad.
Yeah, you know what? That was a good game. Obviously, they're real quick. They're real fast, especially on transition. They get some top-end skill throughout their lineup, and we had talked about going in there. We had seen some games. I'd been at the Ottawa game the night before, and Ottawa did a really good job of trying to just stay over top and slowing them down. We're going to have to do it again. You know, we see these teams that they can really go. They got a back end that's healthier than when we last saw them. They got people that are coming, and it isn't just Hudson. They're all in the rush. So it's about us again, our mindset, our ability when we don't have the puck, that we got to work just as hard to be over top of people, working to get back and making sure that we're eliminating those chances. We can do it too, the opposite way. And I liked our road trip. I thought we played fast against some of these real good teams. We got out of our end quick. We transitioned off neutral zone turnovers quick, and that's what we need to do against Montreal. We got to force them to play in their end of the rink a little bit more than they want to play in our end of the rink.
All right, so there's Arnie on the Habs. We're going to talk to Shaun Starr about Montreal coming up in just a minute. Cole Perfetti has been cooking lately, and listen, took a long time to get back from the injury, but playing well and really connecting with Gabe Vilardi, who I think is quietly had just a phenomenal season this year for the Winnipeg Jets. And when you're looking for real bright spots this year, Gabe Vilardi's been a big part of it. But it's been a lot better lately for Perfetti. Here's what Arnie had to say about Perfetti, the Perfetti-Vilardi combo, which has been bearing fruit recently.
Obviously, you know Gabe and his ability to hold on to pucks and make plays, to get to the net front. Fetz is, as much as, he has real good vision. He makes plays. He's got that mindset to shoot the puck, and he gets inside. So I think there's a good combination there, whether it was JT with them or I was with Lau with them on this road trip. There's just some chemistry. They just see them they've been playing together for a while now, and I think that helps. Kind of being with the same kind of line mates certainly helps kind of figure each other out, what you're up to each and every shift.
All right, now let's get a quick injury update on the infirmary as the Jets head into their final game before the Olympics.
So everything's going to the deadline. The Olympic break coming back. We'll see when we get back. I'm hoping that Miller and Pionk will be back skating. Fleury's got a checkup today to see if he's able to get going on the ice, and obviously he's going to have a little bit more work ahead of him. It'll be kind of, we get back from the break. We're hoping that 2 of them are ready to go, and 3 would be great. But as of right now, that's just the plan. I don't know where it'll be 100% if they'll all be ready to go, but they'll have to get some treatment while we're away and before the 17th.
Have you guys made a decision with respect to Salamonson and Phillips as to whether you'd send them down to the
We'll
Moose?
talk about after. That's obviously, we don't want those 2 kids sitting. It's probably what we're going to do, but there's no need for those 2 to sit for 3 weeks.
All right, so Scott Arnaiel and the injury situation on the blue line. It does make sense for Salamonson and Phillips to head back to the Moose, help them win some games, keep playing, and then be ready and available when the team does return. Here's Arnie on Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuck, Josh Morrissey, and Nino Niederreiter, who are playing their last game for the Jets before heading overseas to the Olympic Games.
I see it in practice. So somebody's wearing U.S. colors one day, and Nino had his colors on and different equipment. But no, you know what? You can tell they're excited. It's as it's getting closer, and you're seeing it in the media, the talk. I mean, it's 48 hours away. Everybody's it's leaning that way, and those guys have done a good job of keeping it behind or sort of to the side, but I know they're excited. I've talked to them. They're all trying to get their plans in order, or they do now. But I think that at the end of the day, it's a spotlight that the whole world's watching, and I think that for the NHL to be back in, it's been a long time, and that we saw that 4 Nations, how exciting that was, and we're hoping that the Olympics will be the same thing, and for those guys to be a part of it, have that experience, to be in that atmosphere, in that pressure, that's all good things for those guys to help us after the break is over.
All right, and speaking of the break, listen, the team is not in the situation it hoped to be going into the break, but it is a break nonetheless. And a unique one. Here's Arnie on what's coming up for his team, for both the players going to the Olympics as well as the ones that won't.
We have 26 games in 51 days when we come back. So this is our push. We've been doing it. We're 7-3-3 since we ended our losing streak. We got ourselves back in. Now the work coming is going to be heavy. And so that month of March is going to be really, obviously, crazy important, but it's going to be a lot of work too. So I got some work to do here. Staff has some things that we got planned, so when we do come back, that week of practice, getting ready for the first game in Vancouver.
All right, there is Scott Arnaiel with his comments today on the game. Now, listen, we mentioned Cole Perfetti has been playing well. We've got some Perfetti as well as Josh Morrissey. Maybe we'll get to a little bit later on, but we do want to get to Shaun Starr, who's going to join us in just a moment. Before that, let me remind you, gang, that it is time to get those tickets for the St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery. We are now into the ultimate bonus deadline countdown, which is next Thursday, February 12th. Get your tickets before then, and you'll be eligible for ultimate bonus prizes worth over $140,000. The top prize, $75,000 cash. One of the other prizes, there's 8 $5,000 shopping sprees at St. Vital Polo Park with the Outlet Collection. And then, of course, the ultimate World Cup experience, which is tickets, hotel, airfare for 2 to a World Cup game in Vancouver, and $2,000 cash valued at over $10,000 or $9,000 cash. Of course, you'll also be in for the incredible grand prizes, one of 5 dream home packages of worth $1.5 million or $1.25 million cash, tax-free. So get on over online, stbmegamillionchoices.ca to grab your tickets. You can also pick them up at your local Red River Co-op locations or London Drugs today. Huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto as well for their support of WST. Looking forward to those Princess Auto bomber reports and Next week, we should have some of the new Bombers joining us on the show after the flurry of activity on the weekend. By the way, if you missed that special pop-up CFL 110 Hammer and I did from Costa Rica, that is up, talking about the Bombers and the moves around the league, up on the WST channel. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers, their home, Princess Auto Stadium, and Winnipeg Sports Talk, with 3 locations in Manitoba, featuring the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. And hey, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. I know they've bailed many of you out, Michael Remis included, with batteries to get you through this incredible deep freeze we've had for the last few weeks. Weather looks good right now, but for all your battery needs to get you through the Winnipeg winter, get the best prices in town and the best service while shopping local at Manitoba Battery. 2 locations to serve you: Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive. Stop wasting time and money at the big box stores where you can shop local and get taken care of like only Manitoba Battery can. And hey, if you can't make it out, they'll be more than happy to deliver those batteries to you anywhere inside the perimeter. You can give them a call or shop online today at manitobabattery.com. Coming up a little later on in the show, the pre-Olympic Chud's Power Sports NHL Power Poll. But right now, let's get ready for this game tonight between the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. And Shaun Starr joins us now from Montreal for the latest on the young, exciting Habs. Will be here tonight for the 6 p.m. puck drop. Shaun, what's going on? How are you?
Hustler, baby. Good to see you on terra firma. Every time I see you, you're living the jet set life, Playboy. I love it.
Yeah, well, I've had a very, very fun week, but it is back to business. And kind of funny enough, getting back just as the break's about to start. And obviously, we're fired up for the Olympics. Should be a lot of fun for Canadians from coast to coast. But one more game tonight, and man, we've got 2 teams in very different situations going into the Olympic break. Habs playing some great hockey and beating some real good teams lately as well.
I mean, they've been going through it like every team, right? Dealing with injury, condensed schedule, big time opponents. And last week, it was a little bit of a mini gauntlet, right? Taking on Vegas, taking on Colorado, taking on Buffalo. I had personally set the over-under on points in those 3 games at over-under 1.5. They took all 6 on the board, right? So the youngest team in hockey, I think, has been thriving, Andrew, on setting challenges for themselves. Even the captain, I mean, the marathon of an 82-game season, like the fans, to an extent, the media talks about any given night, big Saturday night rivalry game. It's a must-win. Nick Suzuki went into the game last week against the Sabres on Saturday in Buffalo. He's like, boys, this is a must-win game. So to me, it's such an encouraging sign from a team that defied the odds and made the playoffs in the 8 seed last year to look at any given opponent. And listen, I mean, the Buffalo Sabres are having a season. I mean, you talk about a 180 turnaround. We've seen, teams bounce back from a coach. Look at Columbus. They're 9-1 since Rick Bowness took over. I've never seen a team be rejuvenated because they have a new general manager. But that's the reality for the Sabres. And they've been kicking the tail of the Montreal Canadiens in the last 2 meetings up until Saturday night. So, it's that, to me, that psychological edge of, even though it's a regular season game, Andrew, you go into it thinking, we can't lose. We got to make a little bit of a statement, like a gut check scenario. And I think the Canadiens have been thriving under those circumstances.
I mean, we talk about how tough a neighborhood the Jets are in the Central Division, but I mean, a 4-goal win over the Avalanche, with 3 or 4 points against the Minnesota Wild in the last 2 meetings. I mean, this young Habs team seems to have really taken a step forward. I mean, it was one thing to be frisky and to be in the mix and find your way into the playoffs. I mean, as we get into the second half of the season right now, they're not only answering the challenge, but they're beating some of the best teams in the NHL and have done it relatively consistently.
Well, listen, they're a very aggressive team. I think they've really taken the Martin St. Louis attitude. We're talking about a Hall of Famer, a great player in his day, an offensive-minded player, right? And I'll give you some perspective. Like, Nick Suzuki doesn't have as many points as Mark Scheifele, right? Suzuki's on pace for 95 points. You go down the list. Lane Hutson's a point-a-game player. Cole Caulfield's a point-a-game player. Ivan Demidov, the 20-year-old rookie phenom, future superstars, on 46 points through 56 games, leading all rookie point getters. Juraj Slafkovsky, who was nicknamed second-half Slav in this market because he would turn it on after the new year. He's having a complete season. He's on 21 goals. Noah Dobson's on 36 points. So not only are you getting top-line performance, are you getting high level performance from young players. The defense here is helping deliver the offense through Mike Matheson, through Noah Dobson, through Lane Hudson, all the while dealing with, at the time, significant injury. You know, a player, Hab fans have only seen him 5 times, Patrick Laine. You know, he's been on the sideline after game 5 of the regular season. So it's been a very deep and a very consistent performance, and it reflects in the numbers. They're one of the highest scoring teams and have been all season long.
You know, you mentioned Laine. People kill me if I just gloss over that. What's the latest on him right now? And, you know, considering where this team is, what they've done without him, the ticket that he commands, I mean, what's the future of Patrick Laine with the Habs?
I mean, I don't know if there is one, Andrew. I don't think teams are lining up for Patrick Laine. We're talking about a guy who's, you know, significant chunk on your salary cap. I mean, he's playing for his NHL future. I don't think he's done as a player, right? But if the Canadiens are willing to, and I believe they probably would be in an educated guess, retain salary, I don't think you're getting a handsome reward if teams or a team are calling for Patrick Laine. And, you know, at the heart of the matter, he's been healthy. He's been taking rotational shifts at practice. He's wearing a regular jersey. It's not one of those no contact jersey situations for Laine, right? But when you look at a team like Montreal that plays fast, I talked earlier about the depth of the team. If I'm calling it down the middle, I don't know what his role is here. You know, the Canadiens' power play has been better than it's been in recent years. Maybe there's a role for him on power play too, but if you're going to put him in, who are you taking out? And that's the issue. Montreal plays with speed. They're very fast in transition. And, you know, Patrick Laine, while he's got the potent shot and knows how to manufacture offense when he's healthy, I don't know the role. I mean, he's not, to be frank, he's not a top 6 player on this Montreal Canadiens team. There isn't a player on the top 6. You go through the first line of Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and Kirby Dach. Those 3 guys stay intact. What we call the kid line in Montreal, Oliver Kapanen, who's on 17 goals as a rookie, he's the center of that line. Juraj Slafkovsky, who I talked about earlier. Ivan Demidov leads all rookies in points. Those 3 guys are staying together. You've got Josh Anderson, Phil Deneau, and Brendan Gallagher, the veteran line. They're staying together. So, like, Patrick Laine going to be a 4th line guy? Is he going to be a specialist where, you know, he plays few minutes, but you throw him out there over the boards on PP number 2? It's like, it's just the lay of the land, Andrew. It's how it's gone here in Montreal.
It's just so shocking for those of us here in Winnipeg that saw him come in with all the fanfare. I mean, he scored 80 goals as a teenager for the Winnipeg Jets in his first 2 games, and now was sitting on, you know, greatly due to injury, but 5 games and can't crack a lineup of such a young team. And I'm with you. I mean, you do wonder what his future is in the NHL. I mean, there'll be another team that'll take a chance on him, but man, you know, he is so much fun to watch when he's at his best. But it's been a while since we've seen it, and I imagine he never really got to see much of that at all during this stint with the Habs.
You're correct, and you know, we talk about it often. This market and his teammates have never seen Patrick Laine at 100% healthy. When he came over from Columbus and they closed that and he came over here, he immediately got dealt with an injury in the preseason against Toronto. He opted not to have invasive surgery. He opted to go a different route in order to, I guess, expedite the return. And he played well. You know, at the end of the day, he was instrumental in the Canadiens getting into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference last year. There's no exaggeration to that statement whatsoever. And then this year again, played 5 games and then got dealt with another injury, I think a sports hernia, if memory recalls, and had to have surgery, to the point where now this Montreal Canadiens team that's been dealing with a rash of injuries, they've been dealing with, for a massive stretch of time, amongst the league worst save percentage in the NHL, you know, right there with the Ottawa Senators. And yet the Canadiens, in, shall I call it, the most competitive division in the league right now, in the Atlantic Division, they've been in and out. They've been 3rd place in the division for a long time. And now, as of this taping, they're the number 1 wildcard team, tied on points with Buffalo for the 3rd spot in the Atlantic, right? So if I go back to my point that we made earlier about Montreal thriving on challenges through adversity, goaltending, injuries, young guys stepping up, I mean, to me, it just reinforces the fact that I don't know what Patrick Laine's role would be if Coach Martin St. Louis wants to insert him.
Shaun, you mentioned goaltending. It'll be interesting. We're going to see Montembeault tonight. Montembeault a year ago was on the Four Nations team. He hasn't even been carrying the mail right now for the Habs. how they've been getting by the spotty goaltending, and do you think that is an area that might be addressed, at least with some support at the deadline?
They've been getting by because they can outscore their problems. The amount of comebacks, even though like they're one of the teams in the NHL that surrenders the first goal on the first shot, it's like a very ugly trend, right? Sam Montebo's got an .869 save percentage and a goals against average close to 3.5, and hasn't played since January 24th. So it's been a minute. And Jakub Dobeš, another rookie, who sometimes looks more like Dominic Hasek in terms of his style of play. Like you'll see him make a stop with his back turned to the shooter, but he makes the stop. And DJ Khaled style, all he does is win, Andrew. Like he's on a 9-10 game point streak here, right? Like it's unorthodox. It doesn't make you comfortable, but he gets the job done. And I think the biggest difference is Dobeš is more inclined to me to make the timely stop when either the Habs are chasing the game by a goal or leading the game by a goal. He's very competitive. And I think Sam Montebo, and we talk about it every day on the channel, what's happened to Sam Montebo's game, who, he helped backstop the Canadiens to a playoff spot last year. To me, when we go back to the Connor Bedard draft, in my opinion, he cost the Canadiens Connor Bedard because he played too damn well. We were all like, stop playing him. At the time when the Canadiens are tanking and looking to rebuild through the draft, they're like, no, man, stop playing this guy. He's playing too well. But, I don't know if this is a weak take or not, but he's turned into a little bit of a star. He's on TV commercials locally. He's on Air Canada. He's doing McDonald's stops. He's doing Hyundai commercials with Gabriel Landeskog and Sam Bennett. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it the pressure? Was it the pressure of the Four Nations? Is it the pressure of living up to the hype of being the man in Montreal? Because he's not the same. And the Canadiens, to me, have been in must-win mode. I believe every point matters. And, we're past the 55-game marker here. I'm tired of talking about Sam Montebo. Got to get him going. Got to get it going. Well, he's got to get himself going. Jakub Dobeš is the guy delivering the points. Let's be honest.
It is, it's fascinating when, and goaltending comes and goes. And listen, you've got a rookie that is carrying the mail right now. And a guy that, as you just mentioned, got a lot of accolades for what had happened in the past, but hasn't been that guy so far. It's pretty clear who they'd be starting if the playoffs started today. But I do wonder if that is going to be something on Kent Hughes' wish list. What do you think the chances are that they add a goaltender? And frankly, just as it relates to the trade deadline for a team that in all likelihood will be a playoff team, where will they be looking to add and how aggressive might they be?
I mean, I think when it comes to, the wants and needs of the Montreal Canadiens, I would say goaltending is way down that list. I think we could talk about, who should be on the right side of the top line. Kirby Dach seems to be doing a pretty good job, right? The Montreal Canadiens, for what it's worth, have not lost more than 2 games in a row. 2 games in a row since early to mid-November.
Wow.
Youngest team in hockey stops the bleeding, right? For a variety of reasons, okay? And when things were going a bit sideways, and we go back to that, mid-portion of November, and maybe one of the inflection points we can look to was when the Canadiens got curb stomped by the Tampa Bay Lightning on December 9th, 6-1. What did the Canadiens do? They called up Jacob Fowler, the what's projected to be the next franchise goaler for the Montreal Canadiens. And that's why I think looking at goaltending as an option is probably way down the list, because Jacob Fowler's doing some really good things with the Laval Rocket when he came to Montreal as a call-up, right? First full pro season. And he gets the call of the show in early December because the 2 guys at the NHL level can't do the job. And he came in and provided exactly what the Montreal Canadiens needed. Won some games, looked good, was difficult to figure out, and I think it stabilized things. And then Jakub Dobeš kind of took it a little bit when I think the fan base in Montreal was waiting for a goaltender to own the crease, and they were incapable of doing so. So we could talk about the hole at 2C for the Canadiens. The fact that on any given night, they basically play with 5 defensemen, because if Arbor Jackey's plays less than 10 minutes. On Monday, in the comeback point in the overtime loss to Minnesota, Jackey was on the ice, played less than 6 minutes, plays less than 10 minutes on the regular, right? So it's to me, those are the bigger priorities for the Canadiens and what Ken Hughes might be dealing with, whether it's before March 6th or this summer.
Shaun Starr with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Habs and Jets tonight. Early start, 6 p.m. So we'll look forward to seeing you down
Eastern
there.
time zone bias. Let's go.
Yeah, no doubt. The blue line, listen, we saw Hudson in his brilliant rookie season last year.
Yeah.
But I do wonder what the presence of Noah Dobson's been. How has that helped the and what's the role between those two who both have brilliant offensive capabilities, albeit in different players?
Noah Dobson is just the constant reminder for any. I know you have a lot of NHL GMs coming to you for wisdom because they watch this show on the regular. I know that.
Always.
You do not trade a player like Noah Dobson. You do not trade a player like Noah Dobson at the end of the day, because the Canadiens have a prospect named David Reinbacher, who they drafted 5th overall in the offensive gifted draft year. And he's been dealing with injuries. I'm not pulling the chute on the guy. I'm not calling him a bust or anything like that. But having Noah Dobson as a top pair, second pair on the right side was such a stabilizing force for the Canadiens. It was such a need. And it's allowed not only to the defensive side, Andrew, to be more balanced. It's, I think, allowed people to forget about David Reinbacher and let him kind of marinate in the American Hockey League and let him take his time coming back from injury and learning the pro game, because he's another big righty defenseman. So not only do the Canadiens, as I mentioned earlier, the defensive top 4 provide a lot of offense, and they're really fast and high-end skilled. Mike Matheson is a minute-eating machine, plays 5 minutes. The Canadiens are one of the most indisciplined teams in the league, right? And he's the captain shorthanded. He's going to play against the Mark Scheifele's and the Velardis and the Kyle Connors. He's going to get that matchup, right? Noah Dobson not only can play good defense, he can quarterback a second power play. And Lane Hudson, it was hard to imagine. Even Ken Hughes, the general manager in Montreal, was like, he wasn't expecting Lane Hudson to be as good as he was when he came into the National Hockey League. But then he won Rookie of the Year. And now he's on pace for 83 points.
Huh.
What makes him so unique, and I think it's more evidence of this Canadiens team, they're so skilled. It makes defensemen and forecheckers, it makes them second guess because they're so unpredictable. And Lane Hudson, remember early on, do those jukes and jives and all of those things. I mean, he's still out there breaking ankles like an NBA player on a crossover, and he can quarterback the power play. The assist he had cross ice against Minnesota. I mean, his periphery vision, his execution, the skill level. I mean, he's the real deal, man. He is the real deal. He is the Canadiens' version of Quinn Hughes.
You mentioned Reinbacher, and I remember, what was it, the 2023 draft where the Habs took Reinbacher at 5.
Correct.
And Matvei Michkov went at 7. And that was
Correct.
The huge conversation. How could they pass on this guy? And then, of course, Reinbacher's been injured and hasn't really contributed. I would imagine that conversation's got a lot quieter because of the guy they do have right now, Ivan Demidov. We're going to see him for the first time tonight in person. Man, this kid is fun to watch. What's he been like in around Montreal? How has he been welcomed in? And how big a part of this very successful season so far has the rookie been?
Can you imagine? It's unrelatable to me. You're 19 years old. You come to a different continent. You come with your girlfriend. You don't even roll up with your parents. You come with your girlfriend. You immediately make the National Hockey League, learning English via YouTube, and doesn't look like he has been intimidated or rattled whatsoever. I remember speaking to a scout, and one of the lines that stayed with me that was said about Demidov was, he wants all the smoke. What does that tell you about the mental approach that this guy has? He believes in his skill set, and the Montreal Canadiens have not had a 100-point forward since the days of Mats Naslund. We're going back to the mid-'80s, okay? Ivan Demidov will be the next 100-point guy for the Montreal Canadiens. He's 20 years old. His ability to process the game at a high level, Martin St. Louis calls his brain a supercomputer at how quickly he's been able to adapt and adjust. His English, he's 20, he just turned 20. His English is unbelievable. I remember covering Andrei Markov, and no disrespect to the greatest Canadiens defenseman of my age group, right? I wasn't around in the era of the big three watching Serge Savard, Guy Lapointe, and Larry Robinson. Andrei Markov was a phenomenal talent, but it took him a minute. Ivan Demidov rolling up here, just doing his thing so confident and thriving in the situation and leading all rookies in scoring across the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big favorite to win the award. I don't think anyone could have seen the year Matthew Schaefer's had in New York. But,
yeah,
I mean, man, that's, for a team like Winnipeg that, hasn't done well with their prospects, has taken a huge step back this year. There'll be a lot of, I think, envious Jet fans looking at this team they're rolling up. The one guy everyone's going to be cheering for starting next week is Nick Suzuki. Tell us about his season and what he'll be bringing to Team Canada in Italy.
He's a true captain. And is the leading point getter for the Canadiens on, 65 points, on pace for another massive season. I mean, his growth just grows. You chart it in a graph. It's just an upward trajectory his entire career. He's never missed a game, ever. I think you got to go back to the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League. The guy just has never missed a game, leads by example, thrives under challenges, plays all the roles for the Canadiens, and gets the toughest matchups. And he's one of those guys to me that leads by example in the room, on the ice, and they march to his beat. And listen, I mean, whether he plays on the wing, I don't know if he's going to be a center for Team Canada. I definitely think he's going to have a role. I don't think we're going to be talking about like a black ace watching from the press box on February 20th when they play Czechia. And I think who they have, John Cooper and Cassidy and the entire coaching staff for Team Canada coming up, and they know who they have in terms of a very responsible player. A lot of the reason, right? Like we could talk about, Mark Scheifele, for example, who was sniffing around Team Canada, ultimately doesn't get the call, right? What's the difference there? And personally, I think Team Canada, the way they've structured it, as much as they have the best talent in the world, and I don't need to name the names, I think there's also a strong element of goal prevention. And I don't, mean to be disrespectful. I love Mark Scheifele. But in terms of having, someone that can play responsible shorthanded minutes, that could be a first wave PK player and be out there for a long time, I think that really helped Nick Suzuki's case. And I think he's probably going to play on the wing. And I think he's going to be someone that is going to be huge for them in terms of helping goal prevention. Once we start talking about the serious business of trying to win gold here.
Shaun Starr is with us. Shaun, thanks so much for doing this. Tell us about what you got cooking over on the Starr and D'Amico show. I imagine the numbies are up with the way the Habs have been rolling this year as we get closer to the playoffs.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to talk Habs. We have such an engaging community. We do daily post-game shows following the Montreal Canadiens. And Hab fans, no matter how old you are, we have a wide-ranging demographic. Gen X Hab fans that are just thrilled to be a part of this. I'm a little older than that, so I lived through the struggle bus days. We got older Hab fans, and they jump into live chat, Andrew, and talk. I haven't seen a team like this since the Guy Lafleur days in the 1970s, right? So, like, it's a bit for everybody. The relatability factor is there. I think it's one of the most sustainable. I think it's the most skilled team I've seen and I've covered. And we talk about the prospects. We talked about Fowler. We talk about Reinbacher. They got Michael Hage. They got Alexander Zarowski. All of these guys are on the come up. Like, this team is very legitimate, my friend.
There's a lot of teams that have attempted rebuilds. And listen, it's taken a while. I mean, you had some real early picks, but they seem to have nailed a lot of them. And this team is definitely going in the right direction. Can't wait for the game tonight. Shaun, thanks so much for doing this. Any acting gigs in your spare time these days?
I don't know, maybe a little bit. Am I the star of Heated Rivalry? In my mind, I am. But proud to say, you look up Shaun Starr on IMDb. I am podcast host number 2. I don't have a character name, just podcast host number 2. And yeah, I'm in 4 of the 6 episodes. And first time I've done some voice work before, whatever, but never anything to this magnitude. And it was an unbelievable experience to see how the process of putting together a show and voicing various aspects as the scene is developing was such an awesome experience. And to see it pop off like this was crazy, man.
Well, for what it's worth, in Montreal, your podcast host number 1 to us. Thanks a lot for doing this, buddy. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll catch up again soon. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
All right, good stuff with Shaun Starr. Trade in the NHL. We're going to get to that with Brandon Rewucki in just a moment. But as we move off of tonight's game, talking Jets Habs, let's get to the lines for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. As always, Jets Lines presented by Clean Line, your local leader for over 40 years and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Captain approved. Check them out online at cleanline.ca, the leaders in residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services with 24/7 emergency services. Clean Line's got your back 24/7, 365. Write the number down in case you need it. 204-500-2001. And again, cleanline.ca for more information on all of Clean Line's plumbing, heating, and electrical services, both residential and commercial. This is how it looks tonight for the Jets. Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Lowry in the middle of Perfetti and Velarde, who have been cooking lately. Jonathan Taves playing with Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemetstikov in the fourth line of Morgan Barron, Gustav Nyquist, and Cole Koepke. Defense pairings, Morrissey DeMello, Samberg, Salamonson, Logan Stanley, and Luke Shen. Connor Hellebuck with the start. Eric Comrie backing him up. All right, just before we bring in Brandon as well, I want to get to our Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for the week in the National Hockey League heading into the Olympic Games. Of course, Chud's Power Sports is Manitoba's power sports superstore for over 80 years. Everyone's enjoying the winter right now, getting out on those sleds. Still great deals for snowmobiles and ATVs at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. Head on over to chudspowersports.com to check out the great Polaris Snow Day deals. Start the year on snow sales event. We're talking snowmobiles, both Polaris, Arctic Cats, off-road vehicles. We can start thinking motorcycles for the upcoming spring. Not to mention ice fishing season is here. The best in ice fishing shacks and more. All available at Chud's Power Sports. Your trusted Polaris, Husqvarna, Suzuki, Arctic Cat, Mahindra, Argo, and Evolution dealer up in Gimli. The best in the biz for over 80 years with the best staff. Pop by and see him. Say hi to the Terminator and the gang for us. All right. We're staying with the Avalanche at number one, although, to be honest, if we were going more recency bias, we probably wouldn't have them number one. Only 3 wins in their last 10 games. Still clearly on top of the league, though. Tampa Bay is the number 2 team, and they're right there with the number 3 team, the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, we've had Dallas and Minnesota in this top 5 for most of the year. Minnesota's been a little better, although you can maybe say somewhat fraudulent because they always win in overtime. But we'll give the Wild the nod over the Dallas Stars. And there was no way I wasn't putting the Buffalo Sabres in this top 5. The best story of the year in the National Hockey League, the turnaround in Buffalo. The Sabres get the number 5 spot at 32, 18, and 6. Well, busy night in the National Hockey League. We'll get to all those in the cool bet lines a little bit later on. But there's your Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for the NHL heading into the Olympic break. Again, Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli. Check them out online at chudspowersports.com. Oh, and by the way, when you check out that new website, click on that e-commerce store link in the top right corner. That'll take you over to True North Parts with the best in all the parts you need, as well as amazing deals on clearance gear and accessories from Chud's Power Sports. Let's bring in Brandon Rewicki for a few minutes on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Rue, how are you?
Doing good. How are you guys doing? Hopefully the trip was good too, Huss.
The trip was unreal, and it's right back to business. We got a 6 o'clock game tonight, one more before the Olympic break, but timing was great. I think I got out at the end of the worst of the weather. It's warming up a little bit, and lots of excitement about the Olympic Games. Listen, before we touch on that, we have a trade to announce, another one, and this is the long-awaited Panarin deal. Panarin, is this right, Remis? Panarin goes to the LA Kings for Liam Greentree and a 3rd-round pick. Some of you will be asking, who is Liam Greentree? He was the Kings' first-rounder, 26th overall in the 2024 NHL draft, playing right now at the Windsor Spitfires. Big numbers, 23 goals, 22 assists, 45 points in just 34 games today. This is an interesting deal in that Panarin seemingly had all the control with the full no move. I haven't heard that there's an extension yet, but that was rumored to be made of it. What do you think of the Rangers' predicament and moving the Panarin to the Kings, who get a big boost for their playoff push?
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal return, Huss. There's no other way to put it. But this is, I mean, what it has all over it is Panarin is only accepting a trade to LA, and our hands are tied, and there's very little we can do about what we.
Well, he wanted to go to Florida to be with Bob, but I mean, I hate to tell you, but Florida has nothing to trade because they've flown out all of their picks, being aggressive, winning their last 2 cups. And they're also 9 points out of a playoff spot, and I already declared them dead and buried earlier this year. So picking up Panarin and having the difficulty of signing him really made that probably a non-starter.
Yeah, I mean, from an LA, Ken Holland pulled a fast one on everyone. Because they're not safe in the playoff mix just yet. But no. even if it ended up being a rental, let alone an extension put in here, that's a pretty good price to pay. Like, it's not something that harms them. I mean, imagine if the Jets gave up Colby Barlow in a third. You know what I mean? Not clearly not saying they should be doing something like that, but I think it's that level of a deal where LA basically gives up nothing in massive value, and they get a premier playmaker on their team. So it's a huge move for the Kings. I would imagine, barring some kind of catastrophic lack of chemistry, that it's the move that really pushes them into a playoff spot above, the Seattles and the San Jose's that they're battling right now. I mean, how can you not love this from LA's perspective?
You know what? The Kings, going into tonight's game, they are 1 point back of the Kraken for the second wild card. They do have a game in hand, so I guess points percentage, they'd actually be slightly ahead of Seattle. Utah's in the first wild card, and they're only 3 points back of the Ducks for third in the Pacific with 2 games in hand. Let's assume that this does push the Kings forward and makes them a playoff team. Who do you think is the team, Brandon, amongst Anaheim, the Kraken, or potentially the Mammoth, that's, maybe in the most danger if they can't do something to kind of keep up with the Kings, that they're on the outside looking in?
I mean, Seattle's the weakest team, I think, of the 3, but Anaheim is the most volatile because of all the, injuries for one, but just the insane amount of youth that they have there. It's always tough, right? You can't get a good grasp on what young guys are going to do in situations until they're put into those. So if I had to pick, I think Utah's going to do enough here to get over the line. I imagine Utah's going to be pretty aggressive too in picking up a pretty impactful piece or two. So I feel good about the Mammoth being one of those teams that gets in. They'll also get the Logan Cooley boost, right? So there's that. And then I don't know, man. I don't really like a lot of those other teams there. I guess it feels weird to pick Seattle. I might go Anaheim. They got the best goaltending, but man, I don't really know. It's tough to say there.
It's a tough conversation to have on this program right now when we talk about the Jets and where they are, in that there's so many what ifs with this team. I mean, games and teams and points that were left on the table. Their hideous record in overtime. I believe 8 in a row where they haven't gotten 2 points when they've gone to the extra frame. I mean, they are where they are, and it is reality. And I don't think many of us are holding out much hope that, they can go on a crazy run and pass 6 teams and get into the playoffs. But it speaks to just how devastating that 11-game losing streak was, and that road trip to California earlier on. Because the bottom line is, as good as the teams at the top of the Central are, the teams at the bottom of the playoffs in the West are not that good. But again, with 2-point games and so many 3-point games and only 26 games after the break, it's just such a steep hill to climb. But no one at the bottom in those wild card spots, I'm sure, is scaring many of the teams that are in the top 3.
No, I get what you're saying too. In that, you watch the Jets game against Dallas, and not knowing the records of the two teams, not that you'd say Winnipeg is an identical match, but you'd be like, okay, well, I could see how the Jets could be competitive, and it just hasn't been that way for the vast majority of the year. And the fact remains, the saying always is, you are what your record says you are. There's a little bit of gray area in between that. But I think at this point, it's fair to say the Jets. You could say the Jets aren't a bad team. The Jets have been a bad team this year. You can't sugarcoat that when you're bottom 5 and you've been bottom 3 for the vast majority of the season here. They have good players. They've just been a bad team overall, and they haven't gotten a ton of great performances outside of the top 4 or 5 guys on their rosters. So it's no doubt about it. It's a missed opportunity, but it's one of their own doing. Like, yes, the Jets have had some injuries. They've had some mitigating circumstances. Show me the team that's had everything go their way this year. It's just I'm not going to buy into any of those. So Detroit might be the one. We'll see. We'll see with them down the stretch. But it does suck. But having said that too, Huss, do you really see them beating Vegas, Edmonton, Minnesota, Colorado? Maybe not Minnesota, but Colorado.
Well, I mean, Vegas, Edmonton, and those teams. I mean, to be honest, like where those teams are right now, and again, things will probably be different come the beginning of April. But I mean, like if you can go in and beat the Florida Panthers and be right there with Dallas and beat Jersey and play a real tough Tampa team tight, like that's the thing. They are a much better team than they've showed so far this year. But again, nobody cares, and the other 31 markets of the NHL aren't feeling sorry for you. They're taking advantage of it right now, and and that is part of the disappointment of where they are. Although I'll say this, Brandon, and I'll get your thoughts on it. There's a lot of teams that, based on that 11-game losing streak, or it wasn't like they were just awful and showing up. They were finding ways to lose by 1 goal every single night. A lot of those teams would have packed it in right now. And, I'll give credit to the character in the room that, they certainly aren't playing as if they're in the situation that they're in right now. And I guess that's good for an identity of a team, but you can go 7-3-3. I'm not sure that they're any closer to the playoff line after going that 13 games than they were when they finished the 11-game losing streak.
No, I know what you mean. And it's funny too, because it's like in the grand scheme of things, having a group that doesn't quit is good, but in a way it's also bad in the sense of like effort level hasn't been a concern this whole time. It's been talent level. That's what's really drawn them down. The fact that and part of the reason for losing a bunch of those 1-goal games is the fact that they can't score outside of the top line, albeit Perfetti and Velarde are giving them a massive boost on the second line right now, but they had missed that for so long. That's part of the reason for the hole that they're in. Hellebuck has not been as sharp as he has been and should be. And so it's all of those factors coming into the equation that put the Jets where they're at right now. But I mean, I would agree with the concept of, like, I don't think the Jets are going to finish bottom 3 in the NHL this year. It would be good for them in the long term to do that. But I think with the way you've seen them play these last several games, they're going to beat a bunch of bad teams down the stretch here. So that'll be interesting to see just how the team performs, because I when you're at a 3 to 4% chance to make the playoffs, we all know how this story is ultimately going to unfold here. But just how some of the top guys play down the stretch, how Mark Scheifele ends off his season, presuming that he's going to have the disappointment of officially missing the Olympic team. There's those aspects combined with the potential work of the deadline that it'll be interesting to see how they finish up in the draft rankings and the draft lottery.
Scheif's still top 10. I believe he's 9th in NHL scoring right now. I threw this out to the chat earlier, but I'll hit you with this. I mean, listen, if Braden Point wasn't on Tampa, he'd already probably be off the team. I mean, John Cooper's watching him in the practice. I don't know how you bring a guy that hasn't played, that was as underwhelming as he was earlier on the team. If it comes that they say, you know what, Braden, unfortunately, we can't, you haven't played yet, whatever, it's not going to work, we're going elsewhere. Scheifele's got to be in the mix. Zach Hyman, Wyatt Johnson, Seth Jarvis. I guess we'd include Bedard. Who should and who do you think will get the call if that happens?
It's a tough one. I think personally, I think they would go Scheifele or Johnston, mainly to have that center wing flexibility. Rightly or wrongly, I don't think they would trust Connor Bedard to play down the middle in a pinch, especially going up against, the Americans have some pretty good pivots themselves. I would go Connor Bedard because I think game breaking ability wise, top 5 on the planet. Like, but there's always so much focus about how do we shut down this guy and how do we shut down this guy. But you also need game breakers. That's what Team USA found out in the gold medal game of the Four Nations is, oh, great, we have Kreider and Trocheck and Miller to play the quote-unquote right way. They're not scoring for us against the big dogs. And they could have used Kyle Connor in that situation. So I think if it were up to me, I would go Connor Bedard. I think it'll be either Scheifele or Johnston. Coin flip. I don't really know. I don't know if you feel this way, Huss. It does feel like Team Canada doesn't hold Mark Scheifele in an extremely high regard, considering his level of scoring, his level of play for the Jets, how much he's carried the mail for them this year. I could be off base. I think they have a bunch of guys ahead of him in their pecking order right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to argue that based on what we've seen. I don't even know of those other players of who's still in the Olympic protocol. I know Scheifele is. And obviously, Zach Hyman has that connection with Connor Bedard, or Connor McDavid, excuse me, that could very well be the case. Listen, I know you got to run. Yes or no, Canada gold at the Olympic Games in men's hockey?
Of course. Let's not be foolish now. Yeah, no, I feel pretty good. I mean, I know the goaltending's a thing. I ultimately think Logan Thompson's going to carry the mail for Canada. I think the Americans blew it already. They left so much freaking talent and goal scoring ability off of that roster. And I think that's ultimately going to be their undoing here. So I think Canada's going to do just enough. And let's remember, we still have the 3 best players on the planet right now. And that's the ultimate trump card that no other country can throw our way. So
yeah, we all read the Players Tribune article. We know 97's ready to go, and they'll be ready to go. Listen, I'll look forward to talking Olympics with you next week when you jump on with us. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there's good stuff. There's Brandon Rewucki. I think Connor's going to jump on in just a minute. We'll get the lay of the land from the morning skate today and check in with him. He did a great job jumping in for the last few days with Remis while we were away, and we will dive into the Coolbet lines. Cooked up a little welcome back Huss ride with Huss tonight in the combo cards, which we'll get to in a minute. But hey, do want to shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. And listen, if you're looking to maybe take a day or two off work next week and check out Canada in the Olympic Games, where better to get together with your gang to watch the red and white than your local Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and the great vibe of the game on all the big screens with big sound for all of the Team Canada games throughout the Olympics. And hey, tonight you're not at the game, get on down to BP, 6 p.m. Pick a player contest for all Winnipeg Jet games where you can win great BP prizes and food in the spin the wheel if your player scores. I had a good time with the Royal guys recently. Man, they are just mentioning how busy the snowboard department is right now. And I think maybe the fact that the weather's warming up a little bit, people looking ahead to spring break and whatnot, there's a lot going on. But if you're thinking about getting onto the hills, Royal Sports is the snowboard spot in town. They've been doing it for over 25 years as the leaders in the game, and of course the hockey superstore. But we're counting down for the Olympics, and if you want to gear up in the red and white just in time for the puck to drop, and all of our Canadian athletes representing us in Italy, Royal Sports is the place to get all of that gear right now. They're, of course, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And, man, it is great to be having our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge back on board with us. Was talking to Pitt over the weekend, and, they're ready to go for the upcoming year. Obviously, they lost a number of weeks last year due to the forest fires, but they did such a great job in saving everything, and maybe there'll be even a few more fish in the water this year. If you're thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. Aikens Lake is that spot. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on the upcoming fishing season and get booked in right now. They're already over 75% booked for the upcoming 2026 fishing season. Again, online at aikenslake.com. All right, Connor's good to go. He's going to jump in. Thomas Tipple with some Super Bowl props for us as well. But first, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in Connor Rabchak, not to be confused with Connor McDavid or Connor Bedard, although with the work you did in my absence, many would say superstar work. First off, thanks for doing that. It was great to check in with you and Reem, having some fun while we were down having our fun as well, and great to have you back on the show, my man.
Great to have you back, Huss. As much as, people probably maybe enjoyed or not me being on the show for a full week, I'm sure people are glad to have you back as well. So looking forward to seeing you and Reem and all the other WS tiers down at the rink tonight as we salute Josh Morrissey, Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuck, and Nino Niederreiter as they head to the Olympics.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Listen, of course, as our Jets reporter, you were down at the rink this morning for the morning skate. It's a weird time for the Jets. They're actually playing pretty well, getting some results. They've been 7-3-3 since that ugly losing streak and still find themselves 9 points out of a playoff spot with a myriad of teams ahead of them. But I imagine the upcoming Olympic Games was a big part of all the conversations on Press Row tonight. I'm sure that'll be on everyone's mind when we drop the puck tonight between the Jets and Habs.
Yeah, so, the skate starts and you got Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuck, Nino Niederreiter, Josh Morrissey, all wearing their Olympic gear, their gloves, their pants. They're trying to break in their equipment. Josh Morrissey was wearing a neck guard at practice the other day because those are mandatory at the Olympics as well. So he's getting used to wearing one of those. So you can feel the anticipation building. And we spoke to Josh Morrissey, and he had some really great quotes earlier today when we asked him about, being an Olympian and what it's going to mean for him to represent Canada. He said, quote, "I never thought I'd have the chance to be an Olympian. It's hard to put into words, and just having the chance to represent Canada on any level, but let alone the Olympics, is a dream come true, and I just can't wait to go." He's going to have family and friends out there. He said it's not a hard sell to get people to come to Italy for the Olympics, even if he was in it or not. So he's excited to have some people there. And then, we spoke to Cole Perfetti this morning as well, who reinforced the fact that he's feeling a lot better on his ankle, trusting it more, feeling more confident, loves the way he's playing with Gabe Vilardi right now. Weird moment in time with this Jets team, Huss, because you look at the standings and the money puck projections for the playoffs, and it looks like it's over, but they're 7-3-3 and they're playing not bad, and they just played Dallas tight, and it's going to be a fun game tonight against an original six opponent. And hey, maybe if your team ethical tank, you love the fact that they've gone 7-3-3 and have made up basically no ground in the standings. Yeah,
listen, that's kind of where I'm at. As someone that goes to the games, you never want to see your team quit. Right. I think it would be a terrible thing for a team that, had such success last year, as disappointing as it's been in the myriad of ways they've found ways to lose, and the 1-goal games and the overtime record and all that. It is frankly unbelievable that they are where they are based on the talent that they have. And you mentioned Perfetti's injury, and we'll get to that. By the way, Remo, if you want to queue up number 10, I want to play that and then talk a little bit more about Perfetti with Connor in a minute. But the way things shape up right now, and we've talked about how hard it is to make up ground and points, that unless this team goes on like a crazy streak of, winning 10 of 11 or something like that, and I don't even think that does it, but that at least gets you a lot closer. When you look at it right now, there's a 5-point gap between the Predators, the Devils, and that group of 6 of the Blackhawks, Jets, Flames, Rangers, Blues, and Canucks. The Canucks are probably going to be the worst team in the league. St. Louis is selling pieces. They've basically checked out for the year. The Rangers are in the same group. So that's probably your bottom 3. And then you've got Winnipeg, Calgary, and Chicago at 50, 52, 53. And then a gap of 5 points, which again, as we've talked about, making up 5 points is really, really difficult. So if that's the case and you stay in the bottom six, but still, get some young players, some action towards the end, once you get out of that first two spots, which is really unlikely that they could possibly end up getting there. I mean, it's pretty much impossible, certainly with where Vancouver is. Still have a pretty good chance. As we've seen before, teams move up. Hell, the Islanders moved up 9 spots last year, and we all remember the lottery luck the Jets had with the Line A draft. So, if you're in the top 6, you got a pretty good chance of picking somewhere between sort of 4 and 8, with an outside chance that you might get into that top 3.
Yeah, Huss, and what a story that would be if they won the lottery. And I know the Line A year was interesting. They shut a few guys down and then went on a 5-game or 6-game heater, and everyone was freaking out. What are you doing, winning all these games? And then they ended up winning the lottery anyways and getting up to the 2nd spot. And not to say that that's what's going to happen here, but yeah, I mean, right now they have the 5th best odds at the number 1 pick, 8.7% per tankathon. So it's interesting. It's a scenario where it's tough to make up ground on all of these teams that they're chasing for a playoff spot. Like you said, I mean, LA just made the Panarin trade. We'll probably get into that in a second. And then all of the teams, Seattle, San Jose ahead of them. But also the other side of that is that it's going to be really tough for the Jets to almost lose ground. If you want them to improve their draft odds for a pick, they're on paper better than all of the teams that are around them in Calgary and St. Louis and Vancouver that are, Vancouver is truly tanking. Sometimes the definition of tank is different for different people. You trade away Quinn Hughes and Kiefer Sherwood and all your good players, that's tanking. They're going to get the number 1 overall pick. They're not going to be passing anyone in the standings. But for the Winnipeg Jets, it's going to be interesting to see how well they do play over the final stretch of the season, because I think we can all agree all of these 1-goal losses and overtime losses, which have become so puzzling this season, have just resulted in what is essentially a lost season. And hopefully, the excitement level kind of remains high in the final 27 games as we see some young players get some action. I would love to see a guy like Braden Yeager see some NHL action at some point. I think that would be really cool, and I think the fans would like that too.
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, I'm not sure how much they want to shake up what's happening with the Moose right now, because the team is playing really well. They're starting to really, and I mean, Yeager, had a tougher first half, but it's coming around for him. And, we're likely going to see Salmonson and Phillips go back with the Moose during the break, as Arnaiel said earlier today. But here, let's just play this clip from Cole Perfetti. And this is the confidence that he's got just with his ankle injury after, missing the first big chunk of the season. Here's what Perfetti had to say before the game today.
When you're feeling confident, the first little bit, I was a little hesitant to get on the puck and all that kind of stuff. Just, not scared, but a little, cautious of my ankle, and never had that injury. So it was kind of, some days felt great and some days did not feel great. And it was just kind of getting over that mental hurdle. And I think since Christmas, it's kind of felt a lot better. And especially in the last few weeks here, been able to, I feel like my physicality has come back a little bit more into my game. And, when you're kind of getting engaged early in a game into a guy, now you're kind of awakened into it, and you're above guys, you're in better positioning, all that kind of stuff. You're not really playing catch up. That's what I kind of felt like early on, was when you're not getting into guys, the game's so fast, they're so fast that if you don't hit someone or at least get into them, then they're by you and you're just chasing and playing catch up the whole game. And I feel like now it's feeling better in the sense of that, like being on top of guys, being above them and in better positioning, so then you're in the right spot when you get the puck.
Perfetti, who has been scoring a little bit more. I mean, basically he's doubled his season output in the past week or so, Connor. Pretty clear that things are coming around for Cole right now. And listen, there is an element of too little too late, but for a young man that is such an important part, you would think, of the Winnipeg Jets' future, it was important for him to sort of get going at some point, and obviously it's helped the Jets be as competitive as they have over the last little while.
100%. And even in a lost season, what do you want to see? You want to see the young players playing well, because like you said, those are the future of the team. And you see Perfetti and Velarde showing chemistry as of late. I asked Scott Arnaiel about that duo today, and he said, Cole's ability to find guys and even be a shooter at times, which we saw in the Dallas game, nice goal for him. And Velarde extending plays. Those two have really worked well off of one another with the puck in the offensive zone, all of those things. And Velarde's 26, Perfetti's 24, Salamonson, we could talk about him. He's playing great since his second recall. These are the young players. These are the parts of the future that you want to see for this Winnipeg Jets team have a great final 27 games and really build for next year. And Cole Perfetti, like you said, Huss, he had 7 points in November and December combined. He's got 11 points since January 1st. That in 17 games, that's a 53-point pace. He had 50 last year, and it's not like Nikolai Ehlers just suddenly reappeared in the Jets lineup. Maybe Gabriel Velarde did and has a big part to do with that, but him producing at the pace we saw last year is a great sign. Coming into the season, we thought of him as a breakout candidate. Now he's playing at that same pace. He's back to the Cole Perfetti we know from last season. It's time for him to keep that rolling and even take another step forward ahead of what is going to be. I'm glad I'm not an agent, because what is his contract going to be in the offseason? I have no clue. He's a pending RFA. Do you go long-term? Do you bridge him? That's a decision for someone that gets paid a lot more money than me. So I will leave that to someone else. But Cole Perfetti, back to the player that we know of him from last season, and hopefully he takes an even further step forward in the final 27 or so games here.
Yeah, considering how disappointing the season's been overall, I've got a tough time imagining it's anything other than a one-year deal that kicks the can down the road. And then, you have one more year from his side of things. You hope that you get to that, career season that, sets you up for the long-term extension at the money that you're hoping to make. Tougher argument this year. And yeah, listen, the high ankle sprain is significant. And I know you were mentioning that earlier. Granted, Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl on a high ankle sprain, but the hockey, and there's very few guys like that can get it done. And the stakes of one game, it's a lot different than the grind of
Dylan Holloway on the Blues had a high ankle sprain, came back for a game, and then had to go back for an MRI, got shut down, hasn't played since. Because it's a really tricky injury. It just is.
I was just giving myself a chance to gloss Mahomes during Super Bowl week when we're going to be talking about the Patriots and the Seahawks. By the way, speaking of that, Friday morning,
yes,
myself, Pat, Jake, and you, we're going to need to put together some of our favorite prop bets, obviously picks for the game. I won't put you on the spot right now, but I will tell you that there will definitely be producer picks that will be calling on you. So you get over to CoolBet, you start going up and down all of your props, and we'll look forward to getting a pick from you, and as well as some of our favorite props as we can put that all together. By the way, and we will get to the CoolBet lines, but don't forget, if you haven't used it already, even if you use the WST bonus at the beginning, $60 bonus or 100% bonus up to $60 if you use the promo code WSTSB60 over at CoolBet right now when you make your deposit. Connor, we'll see you at the rink tonight. Enjoy the game, and we'll look forward to catching up in the next couple of days here on WST. Thanks again for doing such a great job while I was out of town.
Yeah, thanks, Huss. Anytime. Hope you had a great trip. Glad to have you back, and looking forward to hearing what Thomas has to say here on the Super Bowl. 1,200 almost markets at CoolBet. So if I have some producer picks, I'm going to need a few days here to gloss that over.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, take it easy, pal. Thanks for doing this. As I mentioned, we've got our Super Bowl extravaganza on Friday morning, 10 a.m. Myself, Pat, and Jake. Patty's actually going to jump on the show tomorrow. We'll talk some Olympics and a little Super Bowl, but the big Super Bowl betting special Friday morning, 10 a.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk on the YouTube channel. I hope you join us then as well. All right, as mentioned, as promised, getting ready for the big game. Let's welcome in our guy from fantasypoints.com, Thomas Tipple. One more game before the off season begins. What's going on, pal? How are you?
Feeling great. Happy to be back. Been too long, Huss.
No doubt.
You went on a vacation. Like, a lot has happened since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, well, part of that is that New England Patriots have made it to the Super Bowl again.
I know.
We'll get to these props in a minute, but I mean, just thoughts on the matchup and the game. Listen, I'm not surprised that Seattle is there. I mean, they had home field. They had an unbelievable season. It was a really, really tough, run through the NFC with some real good teams. I still don't really know. I mean, there's two sides of it. Patriots had the most cupcake schedule of all time, and they played some games where their offense did almost nothing and was able to win, but yet there's a winning pedigree there. I really believe in Mike Vrabel, and the bottom line is they're 60 minutes away from a championship. I mean, just thoughts on this matchup for Sunday that we've got coming up.
Yeah, I think the idea that they had a cupcake schedule is a little bit overdone when you include the playoffs. Now, granted, the offenses they faced weren't exactly letting. We had backup quarterbacks. We've had terrible offensive line, and in LA, people were injured, etc.
CJ Stroud.
Yeah, CJ Stroud had an absolutely catastrophic game, turning it over all the time. But
so bad he cut his dreads yesterday. I'm not sure if you caught that.
Yeah, of course. But the defenses New England played were all top 5. You had Houston. LA's was banged up, but when healthy, they were a top tier team. Houston and then Denver. So it's not like they've had the most walk in the park-esque playoff schedule, and that's what really matters here. Yes, the regular season, they did not have a great record against winning teams, etc., but you play the games that are in front of you, which is also why I like the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks win this game, but I've bet on the Patriots because, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to take the plus odds on the Patriots. So I think Seattle, though, is the more complete team. It's going to 100% going to be on Sam Darnold. Can Sam Darnold finally vanquish the demons that have followed him around his whole career? Remember, it was the Patriots that had him seeing ghosts in his rookie year. He's never won a game against the Patriots. Now, this was when he was in Carolina, in New York. So definitely hasn't been in the last 2 years where he's seen kind of the renaissance. But I find it interesting. You look at Drake May versus teams above 500. He's 5-8, 2,400 yards, 12 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a sub 60% completion percentage, 11 fumbles, 6 of them lost, 52 sacks taken against teams with a winning record. Then you look at, like I said, Sam Darnold 0-4 versus the Patriots, a 41.2 quarterback rating, only 691 yards, 1 touchdown, 9 picks.
He was probably on the Jets back then.
Well, that is Jets and Carolina. Remember when he started the year with Matt Rule in Carolina, started out okay, ended up getting hot towards the end of the year, and then his second year in Carolina, they pretty much benched him for XFL. I wish I could remember his name. I cannot
Washington.
Remember. Yes, I believe so. But so not with the Vikings and not with this Seahawks team where we've really seen him blow up. Like, he had the best week of his career last week in the championship game, and yet people are still waiting for Darnold to fail. And we're going to talk about that in our prop bets here, but very, very interesting matchup. I love the matchup. I think this is going to be a little bit more exciting than last year for sure, and then this year I think we're lined up for a good one.
Let me ask you this, because I mean, I granted, and listen, as I can't believe the Patriots are here. I mean, it just, of course, it all just seemed to fall in place for them. And I get it. They're the first team ever to make it, going through 3 top 5 defenses. The problem is their offense did almost nothing in those 3 games. Right. And here's the bad news. The Seahawks are also a top 5 defense, arguably as good or better than any of the 3 that they did see. So can New England score enough points? Can New England score? Or are we going to be seeing, them put up 10, 13, and will that even be close to being able to be in the game?
Well, remember, the Seahawks, though great defense, got absolutely throttled by LA. So the Rams took it to Seattle last week. They absolutely carved them up. So I think
they did in the regular season too, though. It just seems like those
Right.
two divisional rivals, they know each other so well. McVay's got something on. Like, I almost have the Rams in a different category than everyone else based on the entire body of work this season.
Right. And so the thing with the Seahawks defense is they can be susceptible to some crossing routes and some stuff over the middle. I have some Stephon Diggs stuff, some Hunter Henry stuff. Ton of man coverage here for them. Be interesting to see how the pressure comes. Drake May is the best quarterback in the league against pressure. You cannot send pressure at him, so they're going to have to get there with 4. And I find that challenging. Granted, the offensive line in New England hasn't exactly been stellar either. So it's going to honestly come down a lot to, can Seattle hold off his rushing 10 for 65 and run and 1. He's rushed for 22 plus yards in 6 of his last 7 games, 18.4 plus fantasy points in 14 of his 20 games. So Drake May has just been productive against everybody, including in the playoffs. Just interesting. Can you shut down his running? Sorry, I mentioned they played a lot of man. They play zone coverage at 76%, and Drake May averages 8.58 yards per attempt and a 9.8% completion percentage over expectation. He's rushed 46 times for 262 yards on just zone coverages alone.
Yeah, the Drake May rushing is something that I'm sure we'll get to on Friday. But let's get to we don't have a ton of time. Let's get to a couple of the props that you have. And speaking, you mentioned Hunter Henry, you mentioned Stephon Diggs. Let's talk about those two players from the New England side of things as it relates to the prop number up on the board.
That's right. And I wanted to keep it a little bit interesting. We're not just going to do overs here. I got a couple of fun ones because you don't want to just be boring. You're betting on the greatest game to bet on that there is. Hunter Henry, I have over 37.5 receiving yards. That's negative 110 at Bet365. Seattle allows the sixth most receiving yards per game and 4th most receptions per game to tight ends in the regular season. Again, Seattle deploys that 76% zone coverage rate. Henry averages a 1.9 yards per route run against zone. Spikes against zone. He's not exactly a speed demon, if you would, at this point in his career. So he needs a soft zone. Parkinson went for 3 for 62. Tonjes 5 for 59 so far in the postseason. Bet to 40.5. So we'll see. You got to check those. Those might have bumped up by now. But I would bet this all the way up to 40.5 for where we have him projected. And you want to talk Stephon Diggs? Let's talk Stephon Diggs. What quarter is he going to have the most receiving yards? You can go that under receiving props and quarter with most receiving yards. It's plus 255 at DraftKings. And I have it the third quarter. Diggs has had the most receiving yards in the third quarter, 10 times in 20 games, a 50% rate. McDaniel and May try to get Diggs involved right after halftime. It's when most diva wide receivers are like, why aren't you giving me the ball by then? His best averages in receiving yards is 22.4, and his target share 29.8%. First read share 35.5%. His best yards per route run at 3.92 come in the third quarter of the regular season. New England enters as 4.5 underdogs. Maybe a little bit more pass heavy if they're trailing in the second half. I would bet this. This is at plus 240. Again, check that wager. 0.5 units to win 1.275 units on that bet over on DraftKings.
If you like the Seahawks to win, Sammy Darts is the heavy favorite to be Super Bowl MVP. But make the case on the value for JSN.
I actually have a very different Super Bowl MVP coming from Seattle that I think I like even more than Sam Darnold himself. We'll get into that after I make this case for JSN. JSN will likely have to reach 100 plus receiving yards and score multiple touchdowns to have a legitimate chance at winning the award. JSN has reached 100 plus receiving yards and or scored 2 plus touchdowns in 11 of 19 games. We're talking about a Jerry Rice-esque season here from JSN. Cooper Kupp was the last non-quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP. That was 892-2 as a member with the Rams. JSN is the runaway favorite for the Offensive Player of the Year, and Kupp took home the MVP after winning the Offensive Player of the Year in the same season. So this is a plus 550 I would wager 0.5 units to go and win 3 units, but I have one that's a little bit more exciting, Huss. I've got 2 more bets for you. One's super exciting and one's easy. How about Rashid Shaheed, Super Bowl MVP at plus 5,000 on FanDuel? Shaheed hasn't had more than 1 reception in 5 straight games, but he is a legitimate case to be the most dangerous player on the field with the ball in his hands between the two teams. The Patriots have 2 weeks to come up with a plan to slow down JSN. Shaheed could be the benefactor. And boy, did they run man coverage a lot. He can also impact the game as a runner. He had 8 carries for 91 yards in 11 games. Most importantly, as a returner, do you know what this type of player reminds me of, Huss? 2012 Ravens, 49ers, and the late, great Jacoby Jones. Long receiving touchdown, opening second half kickoff return for a touchdown. He should have won Super Bowl MVP in that game had it stayed where it was. And Roger Goodell didn't turn the lights off in New Orleans because one team was getting boat raced, but I digress. I feel like Rashid Shaheed is one of those players that needs 2 plays to win the MVP, especially, and you know this, you mentioned Sam Darnold. He throws 1 pick. Doesn't matter if it's a one-handed jumping 360. Everyone's going to be, oh, Sam Darnold doing Sam Darnold. Immediately takes him out of the MVP. He has to be perfect. I like Rashid Shaheed, 0.1 units to win 5 units on a bet like this. It is a long shot, but it is fun. I'll give you my last bet. I'm not a big heads or tails guy. I'm not a big Gatorade color guy, but one of the ones I love to do is the shortest touchdown in the Super Bowl. Under 1.5, it's negative 125 on DraftKings under game props and TD props. Here's a fun one for you, Huss. Since 1990, 24 of the past 35 Super Bowls, 68.6% have had a 1-yard rushing touchdown, including 5 of the last 6, 83.3%, especially with the high usage of the tush push and the quarterback sneak at the goal line. Looking at you, Drake May. It's not going to take much for this to cash in. Bet to negative 140, wager 1.25 units to win 1. I think this is as big of a lock as you can get, and especially for teams that like to run the ball like this down at the goal line. So there are a few more props. You can get a ton more. We have the early bird special right now that runs through the Super Bowl. It's 20% off all of our packages, fantasy football, betting, data suite, and you can get an extra 5% off of that price with promo code The Worm. The early bird, they get the worm. You can make yourself some money. 25% off of the most in-depth, high-end draft betting, prop betting. We had, it's not hyperbole, we had the best DFS projections in the entire fantasy sports industry. If you play DFS, if you're setting your weekly lineups, you're doing yourself a disservice by not making yourself as much money as possible, especially when you include how you can use it with these prop bets. Where do you think I get all these from? These are from the Fantasy Points Data Suite. Go out there and make yourself some real money through the Super Bowl.
Heavy endorsement here. Hell, I mean, I had some bad injury problems, but when I leaned on the numbers at fantasypoints.com, it helped me big time this year, both in picking games for the spread, for the picks on the weekend, as well as for fantasy sports. Dude, great talking to you as always. And by the way, for all you fantasy nerds, once you get that, you can just start planning for next year off-season trades, because this season never stops. Thomas, have a great one. Enjoy the Super Bowl, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me as always. Can't wait to link up next time.
Right on. There's Thomas Tipple. Give him a follow at El Nostra Thomas on all your platforms with more great NFL and fantasy content. Let's get Remo back in here. And Reem, yes, the countdown is on. I know you guys have been sniffing around this. I mean, I guess we'll make final picks, but do you have a lean right now on where things are at with this 4.5 point spread that really has not moved since about the first hour since it was laid down at 3.5 at Coolbet?
I probably would take Patriots on the spread if I had to, but I think Seahawks are going to win the game. I can't pick the Patriots, Huss. They can't win. We can't have a Super Bowl champion with the path that they've had. I don't want to see it. As much as I, respect the Patriots and, I did cheer for them in past Super Bowls. I know this Sam Darnold story, what he's done, incredible. JSN, what a season he's having. I do like the pick for him for MVP, but I don't want to see. We can't have this. Well, Mike Vrabel's a great coach. I think that's a great story too. You knew he shouldn't have got fired by Tennessee. Someone was going to pick him up immediately, and here they are in the Super Bowl. So, they've definitely just won all their games. Good for them. But they beat nobody, so many backup quarterbacks. And as you said, it's not like their offense was that great, although the game in the AFC Championship, you kind of throw that out. It was a bit of a joke. It
was a joke in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But, again, this is the thing. And, I'll tip my hand a little bit towards Seattle. But, I'm looking at, the potential of, not a close game. I do have, many doubts that, they'll be able to score or move the ball consistently against the Seattle defense. They didn't really do it against Houston. They didn't do it against Denver. And now with the stakes, the biggest against a team that had been leading the way both offensively and defensively through the playoffs. To me, this is a real tough spot. Let's get to the cool bet lines for today. And again, Friday at 10 a.m., make sure to join us live on the YouTube channel. Myself, Jake, Pat, Connor, we'll get into all of our favorite picks and props for the big game. If you go to specials, the markets, as Connor said, I think there's 1,200 different markets right now for the Super Bowl, as there already is. If you go down to specials, there's some absolute beauties. I might hit this one. Bill Belichick to attend game with Jordan Hudson.
Yeah.
Plus 200 to the yes. Bill probably doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't run the show anymore. And if I know Jordan Hudson from what we've learned about her, she's not going to want to miss that opportunity to get a little bit of spotlight. So I wouldn't be surprised if they show up. There's a Cardi B prop. Will she wear a Stephon Diggs jersey? Yes, plus 170. No, minus 238. This is maybe the biggest lock of the entire Super Bowl. Will Chris Collinsworth say, quote, "Now here's a guy." Yeah. That is his line. They've got some other one. Will there be a streaker or an unauthorized person to enter the field of play? Yes, plus 280. No, minus 500. And then some other options on the first TD celebration theme. So as I say, we're going to dive into a ton of this over the course of the next couple days. Pat's going to come on with us as well. But latest, Seahawks minus 227 on the money line. Pats plus 190. The spread is 4.5, and the total for the game is 45.5. Moving over, get your bets in for the Waste Management Open. Scotty Scheffler. These numbers now in golf are so... we haven't seen anything like this since Tiger Woods. Scotty to win this tournament, plus 225. The next guy on the board, Xander Schauffele, at 18-1. Our boy Pat Mayo's got a great boost on Cam Young, who a lot of people like. He's 22 on the odds board. You can get him with the Mayo boost to 30-1. Also keep my eye on Hideki Matsuyama at 25-1. If you want to go down the board a little further, Matty Fitzpatrick at 40-1. I like Chris Gotterup. I think he's in the mix every week. And then Sahith Theegala's looked really good in the last couple of weeks. He's third there before. So Sahith at 40-1, and of course Brooks Koepka. Brooks is back. Wasn't great last week. This is a place that he loves. Very similar to the U.S. Open, and U.S. Open guys do well at this event. Brooks Koepka. And hey, Nick Taylor. Cannot sleep on Nick Taylor. He's 66-1. Minwoo Lee at 66. Another guy that I think is going to get a little sprinkle. So there's some thoughts on the Waste Management Open. Today's big game super boost is Brooks to make the cut and Stephon Diggs to have over 3.5 receptions in the Super Bowl. That's boosted up to plus 120. And the super boost today for the golf is Koepka to make the cut and Sahith to make the cut, up to plus 105. We'll definitely be getting on that. As far as the NHL goes tonight, this Jets-Habs game's a pick'em. Well, it was a pick'em earlier. Now it's actually gone towards Winnipeg. This was a pick'em when I did the lock shop today. Jets are now minus 118. Habs even money. So I think probably that Montembeault Hellebuck goaltending matchup has moved a lot of the money towards the Jets side of things. But Winnipeg minus 118 tonight. Dude, how about Bones and the job that he's done coming in with Columbus? Did you know that they've won 6 in a row and they're 9-1 in their last 10?
They're on a bit of a heater here, has the Rick Bowness effect.
You know it. Blue Jackets minus 147 tonight at home to the Blackhawks. Love the Blue Jackets. That'll be part of the ride with Huss. Other games tonight, Panthers with their season on the line. If you even think they still have a chance. They've got Boston at home. They're 9 points back of the Bruins. Boston's plus 130, Panthers minus 154. Wild are in Nashville to take on the Preds. Wild minus 125, road favorites. Avalanche, huge home favorites against the Sharks. Detroit plus 113 in Utah, coming off that shutout of the Avalanche following a 3-game losing streak. Utah minus 133. Dallas is minus 213, home to the Blues. Edmonton minus 139 in Calgary in the Battle of Alberta. The Kings, don't think they'll have Artemi Panarin in time for tonight's game. But Panarin, who, by the way, reported a 2-year extension at $11 million per with the Kings as part of that deal. Panarin's going to L.A. L.A.'s minus 175. They're at home, minus 175 against the Kraken, who are plus 148. And the lowly Canucks, plus 240 on the road against the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas at minus 294. Now, I promised a little 3-gamer to get back into the groove with the cool bet lines. We got to ride with Huss up in the combo cards. We're rolling with Bones and the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're going to take the Minnesota Wild in Nashville. And the road team is the Detroit Red Wings at now plus 113 in Utah. I think Todd McClellan gets the most out of their team, squeezes it right to the Olympic break. That one is plus 554 if you do it yourself, but if you take advantage of the boost and the combo cards, it is plus 618. So there you have it. Ride with us. I'm on it tonight. And good luck to all of you if you were riding with me. We get some golf picks in, get the golf bets in for tonight before we head downtown. And then, Remo, we see the rest of our crew down for this early start tonight, 6 p.m. against the Montreal Canadiens. One more time before we solely focus on the Olympic break and take a step away from the National Hockey League for a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm super fired up for this one. Should be a bit of a celebratory theme, sending off all of the Olympic athletes. The Jets with the 4, Morrissey, Connor, Monita Ryder, and Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuyck. Sorry, I'm just thinking of my Soaring in Sochi poster that they gave away. I have here. One sec. Check out this poster.
I remember this one. This was I think I still have a bunch of these. I should pull them out and do it. There it is. Frolik, Pav.
Let me get my headphones in.
Jokinen, and Wheeler. The Soaring in Sochi. Man, what a time that was.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this poster when he said sending off the last time the NHL players at the Olympics. The Jets did have a couple. They had Frolik, Pavlik, Ola Jokinen, and Blake Wheeler. So this is, I don't know if we're getting a 2026 edition.
Wheeler, what at that point, another one of the myriad of terrible decisions Team USA has made in best on best hockey. Of course, barely played for the first 55 minutes of their last game, and then was out there and was the best player on the ice for the for the final few shifts, and it was like, what might that have looked like if they gave Wheeler a little bit more time? And that, of course, is Wheeler was growing into truly one of the dominant players over the course of that sort of 3, 4, 5 year period.
Yeah, it is kind of funny the poor decisions that they've made. Yeah, going back, like, not just the Four Nations, not just this year's roster, according to some. Yeah, Blake Wheeler was becoming one of the premier passers in the NHL. Couldn't see the ice on Team USA, was a difference maker when he was out there. So I talked with Dennis Bernstein yesterday. A lot of pressure on Bill Guerin. I don't think it's on the players. You know, they left some big goal scorers off Team USA, and we're going to see two of them, or one of them, tonight, Cole Caulfield. The other is defenseman in Lane Hudson. So some questions will certainly be asked of Bill Guerin, really putting his reputation on the line, I think, with the big names they left off. But Jack Hughes, you know, he's being held out with injury. I wonder if there's going to be a replacement for him. And he's a guy, he did not perform well at the Four Nations. And it's kind of funny, you know, last time it was Quinn Hughes battling the injury at the Four Nations. Now it's Jack Hughes, he's had the hand thing and the other thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, listen, we'll get to the Olympics starting tomorrow, but tonight, one more game for the Winnipeg Jets. Should be a fun atmosphere down at the rink tonight with the Habs in the building. What an exciting young team they have right now. If you joined us late, check out the interview with Shaun Starr for more on the Habs earlier in today's show. That's going to do it. Obviously, we got to get this podcast up with the early game, so we'll leave it there. Great to see all of you. Tomorrow on the program, much more on the Jets heading into the break. And, of course, the Olympic Games getting going, which will dominate the show for the next few weeks. Coming out of Italy, congratulations to our Canadian mixed doubles team in curling. They got a win to start things off. Nice way to get things going for Team Canada at the Olympic Games. But, again, Olympics, we'll get to that tomorrow. Tonight, one more at Canada Life Centre, 6 o'clock start, Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. We'll look forward to seeing everyone joining us in the WST section up in the 300s tonight. Thanks to Thomas Tipple, Connor Rabchak, Brandon Rewicki, and Shaun Starr for joining us today, and all of you for being a part of the gang. Again, if you are betting at CoolBet, don't forget to take advantage of that special bonus this week, WST SB60, 100% bonus up to $60 for you. Make sure to put the promo code in when you do your deposit. That's going to do it for us. Great to see everybody back in the chat. And we'll see you at the game tonight and see you back here tomorrow, 1 p.m. for another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great one, everybody.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.